Hello, everybody. How are you doing? I am super excited today. One of my friends is going to be on and be a guest today. You guys may know her as MM Ward, but I know her as Mama Maggie, and a lot of people do. She kind of takes care of all of us fledgling young writers and even writers that are the same age as her. She lets us call her Mama Maggie, which is wonderful. And I'm super glad she's here today. We're going to be talking about writing and creativity, inspirations, blogging community, reflection on future goals, and some of her books and writings. And I'm going to bring her up on now. And here we go. Mommy! Yay! Hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for being here today.
I am happy to be here. I know we had to scoot the days and the times around a little bit, and that's fine with me.
Thank you.
I'm in the house, I'm in the writing, so that's what I do.
Here. I know it's crazy because everything happens for a reason. And today, somebody really needed me to go with them to an appointment here in my little tiny town. So I did. And while I was there, I got some more information about something I needed. So it worked out perfectly, you being so flexible and saying you could come at 2 instead of 10. So thank you. Thank you. But I think I'm just going to jump right in with the questions if you're ready. Are you ready?
Oh, I'm good. I'm
ready.
Good.
Okay. What first inspired you to start your blog? And I'm going to let you say it. I say Penumbra Mine. Is that it? Close enough?
I'm Penumbra Mine, MM Ward on all platforms, including Blogspot and Twitter, Blue Sky, Inkit, Wattpad. Oh goodness, I'm on one more. What's my other one?
I'll get you to send them to me, and I will go back in and add all of them to the description so everybody can follow along and join you. But yeah,
I'm kind of all Substack. That's what it is. I'm kind of all over the place because like a new platform comes out and I like jump right feet first into the new platform. Like when Vela was a thing, I was in the beta of the Vela.
Oh wow.
And so with Blue Sky came out, I wrangled an invite to Blue Sky, and then Substack, I started posting whip chat on my Substack channel about just writing tips, writing tricks, world building, different kind of things about world building, because I believe a good book world is a good thing. And I started on my blog, actually, my publishing house, Editingle Indie House, they were like, you have to have all these social media things. And I was like, no, I don't want to. Yeah. The little Lego Batman meme about nope. That was me. That was me about going onto social media after I started writing and publishing. So that's how my YouTube channel came about. That's how my Blogspot came about, and then Twitter and Facebook and all of that. And the more I build up, new platforms, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll hop on that one.
Yeah, I'll do that. Can you tell everybody what you were explaining to me about the name and the meaning behind it? Because that was very intriguing for me.
When I started writing, the reason I started writing was because I had a stroke, and I had not written since college. So I had not written since the 90s. In 2015, I had a stroke and I lost language. And everything was just up in the air. Everything was, there was no black and white. There was no, this is going to work, that's going to work. Everything was gray. And so when I started writing under the handle Penumbra Mine. Now, a penumbra, if you know about eclipses, the penumbra is the part of the shadow that is between total darkness and the total light. So the whole gray area is the penumbra, the whole different levels of shadows between total darkness and total light is the penumbra. And we all live in the gray. I mean, literally, we all live in the penumbra. And so that is where my writing journey started, was writing these broken characters that needed to overcome things. These gray more, not necessarily morally gray characters, but emotionally and spiritually gray characters, those struggle. And so that's where it came from, was writing from that area where they're not completely shadowed, not in the light, just somewhere in the middle. And that's literally where we all are.
Yeah.
Everyone.
How does that play into your book? I was looking at this on your website, The Relic of Time Wars. How does that play in there? I haven't got a chance to read it yet.
Relic of Time Wars was actually the first book fan fiction that I wrote in my recovery, and it's blown up over the decade that I was writing it. It blew up to 1.4 million words. And the gray is there are no absolutely good characters, and there are no absolutely bad characters. Okay. And everyone has the opportunity to lean into the light, like Darcy Weber, or Assassin Jaguar, as she is called by Dark Prince Damien's circle. Her best friend is Dr. Daisy Kane, who is also known as the Oracle of Adamos. And, you know, she is OCD. She is a workaholic. She is on the side of the light. And while Darcy grew up an assassin in Damien's school and everything, she's Daisy's best friend, because Darcy's decided that she'd rather be on Daisy's side than Damien's side, but she can't let Damien know. So she's a double agent for literally from the time you meet her for the entire book series. Darcy is doing when she befriends Daisy, she begins doing things that swing her back, so that, spoiler alert, when she eventually dies, there's a scene in the last book where Darcy tells the shadow that's indwelled her that she doesn't know how many people she's killed. She's never kept track.
Wow.
But then when she actually dies, she goes into the light or goes to heaven, and she's completely flabbergasted by that.
That's
so she is the and you know, I've got several characters that go back and forth between this really dark place and this really light place, and it's in all of my books. All of my characters in all of my books have this wavering thing. I think I only have 2 antagonists that are just utterly irredeemable. And everyone else has a swing. Everyone else has that pivot of being in the gray.
We have somebody saying hello to us. All right. How would you describe your creative voice in a few words?
My creative voice is frantic, like not angry frantic, but energy frantic. It's like, here's the idea, and let's do this, and let's do that, and all of these things, and blah 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 blah. And it's like, I describe it as hummingbird muse word vomit. When I'm creating a world, when I'm starting to create a story world, when I'm starting to create characters, it's just like, and it all comes out, like everything. And I use a writing method called writing the tree, where I will just spit out scenes, from the seed scene. I will just start spitting out all these little short, like paragraph lengths or 1-page length scenes. And after I get a dozen of them, I will character build. I have an interview thing. I have a thing that I interview 30 questions every author should ask their characters that I share on my Substack Whip Chat channel about, you know, how to interview your own characters to figure out what kind of person they are. I plot. My plotting is looser. I don't do like strict bullet point plots. Like I plot, but it's more of a loose framework. It's like you're laying out a garden and you're going to scatter the seeds, and what grows will grow, but you don't necessarily know exactly where something is going to grow.
Mhm.
And
Okay.
sometimes I describe my plots as being like tourist brochures.
Yeah.
Here's the places that in this area where I want my people to go, these
Yeah.
places, but the order they go to them in is not necessarily set.
Okay.
And I leave places to pantser write because I want the story to be fresh to me too.
Yeah.
Because when I was first starting my writing journey, I tried really detailed plotting.
Mhm.
And I found that I felt like I had already written the story by the time I finished all the plotting and world building work.
Mhm.
So I need places to be fresh for me too.
Okay. When when you're doing that, when you are in the midst of that and you're writing a piece, how do you know when you get to that point and you're like, I'm finished. This is it. I've went over it. It's ready to go to editor. Because that's what I struggle with the most is like, I will, you may not know this, I'm rebranding. And in the midst of that, I was given the opportunity since I pulled all my books down. If you keep it within 10,000 words, you can change stuff and not
Mhm.
be considered a second edition. So I am picking to death books that I've already done before. So how do you know? How do you know, okay, I'm done. This is it.
I write the end of the book during my world building process. I know that sounds like a weird thing to do, but I write that like an end point or very close to the end point
Mm-hmm.
in the world building process. And another thing I do is I write the deaths of all of my characters because I'm sadistic and torture myself. But
Okay.
no, well, this is part of the reason that I have so many series is I'm one of those people who I'm allergic to the words "the end."
Me too.
I no, there's and like working on Relic of Time Wars and working on Pagosa Cliffs because they're such massive series.
Yeah.
I mean, Pagosa Cliffs is 800,000 words across two storylines. And Relic of Time Wars, if you count the 4-book prequel,
Mm-hmm.
it's 1.4 million words. And so it's like when I'm right now,
Crazy.
Darkness of the Devourer, which is book 12, which is the big end of the war book, is when I first wrote it, it was like 65,000 words. When I went through and I split up Relic of Time Wars from 5 books that were basically 200,000 to 250,000 words each, I split it up into more consumable
Book.
fiction bites
Yeah.
of 80 to 90,000 words.
Okay.
And but with Darkness, I have so many B threads that I have to tie up in this book that
Wow. Yeah.
it's going to be the 100,000 word book in this series. It's going to be the chunky fat one sitting at the end,
Yep.
be the thick one. So it's saying the end is very hard for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's I bookend. I will be like, okay, this book ends here.
Okay.
This book ends with this, because I do series, so I literally outline series,
Okay.
and it's like when I
So
did
you
the
do them the same way though. When you're outlining, you do the tree.
Mhm.
Is it like
what
you can
what
do a
I'll
tree for a series or do a tree for each book?
the tree okay what I do is a tree for each book. I pull out the pages, I do the scenes, those are the leaves of the tree.
Okay.
The plot becomes and the characters become the branches that weave them together into the trunk that is the story,
Okay.
and the world building is the roots.
Okay.
Now when I'm doing a series, each book becomes its own tree, but
Mm-hmm.
they're like aspen trees. I don't know if you know about aspen trees. Here in Colorado, aspen trees are a big deal. We
Okay.
have the large, up in the mountains, we have a single aspen tree that covers like 80 square miles.
Holy cow.
The roots of one tree is connected to all of the aspens in this humongous area. And
Wow.
it is technically one tree.
That's crazy.
There's thousands and thousands of trees, but technically it is an aspen grove that is a single tree. And that's what I do with my series, is what parts of these roots connect into the next branch, into the next tree, what parts of the branches overlap into the other one. So that's the way I build like the forest for my series.
Okay. All right. What is some advice that you would give someone who feels too shy or too scared to share their writing publicly?
Don't be afraid. I know the imposter syndrome talks to all of us. It tells us all we're not good enough. It tells us all that you can't do this. You don't have a writing degree. You don't have a publishing house. You don't have a book agent. You know, why do you waste all your time scribbling this? And I just say, don't be afraid. Somebody out there in the world, there's 7 billion people in the world. Somebody out there is waiting for your story. Somebody out there will be happy to read your story. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be the next great novel phenomenon. Not all of us are going to blow up on TikTok. Not all of us are going to get a publishing deal. That is the tiny fraction of the minority, and so much marketing money that you have to wonder what the agenda is behind these books that just blow up from new authors.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, there is an agenda. I mean, during the Simon Schuster hearings, they came out and admitted that, yeah, they have agendas behind their publishing to push certain social constructs. So yeah, don't be afraid to put your words out there. I mean, if brain damaged mommy who should have died of a stroke in 2015 can write and publish 30 books, so can you. You can do this. And somebody's waiting for your stories. And even if there's only 5 people who are willing to read your story, you have given them a gift. So don't be afraid.
I like that advice. I like that. Your blog often explores deep emotional topics. How do you approach writing such vulnerable pieces?
Writing, talking about the struggles with alcoholism, the struggles with violence against women, the struggles with the fact that 1 in 3 women have experienced violence in some form. This is a global statistic. These are very intense topics. I talk about my own struggles as an abuse survivor. I talk about things that happened with other abuse survivors. I think the most rewarding thing that I ever had, especially people who've read my Overcomer books, people who have read the Pagosa Cliffs and Enemies books about Millie and the descriptions of her abuse as a small child, and have reached out to me. Yeah, I'm a huge advocate of therapy. I'm a huge advocate of getting yourself healed. And I don't say, some people, if you have to therapist hop, because your mental health is not a burden.
Right.
And no one should make you feel guilty if you're like, I'm in therapy, because my parents did that to me. I realized how effed up my family was and put myself in therapy when I was 15. And, that was back in the 1980s when the only people who went to therapy were crazy people. And if my parents weren't so worried about their position in the community, they would have kicked me right out of the house when it became public knowledge that I was in therapy. So, I don't mind sharing my own personal trauma. The greatest reward I get is when someone reads one of my books, reads a chapter on Inkit, reads a chapter on Wattpad, and where I have all of my drafts are free, because not everyone can afford Amazon. But if they read something and they reach out to me and they're like, it's time that I told someone this. It's time that I think I need to find a therapist. It's, I'm like, yes, come over to us with the Overcomer people. Come and be healed. Because And the only way that people are going to realize that it's okay to reach out, to speak out, to get help is if the people who live it say, I'm not ashamed that this happened to me. I'm not ashamed that this was done to me. I was a child. I was vulnerable. I was whatever happened. Our society spends so much time stigmatizing victims and attacking victims' families and victim blaming that we need to change that mentality that it's not the victim's fault.
No.
It is never their fault.
Right. That's good. Is there a particular poem, book, or quote that you return to again and again?
In Relic of Time Wars, there is the High Lord of Deimos, who is the Elder Oracle, repeatedly says a few things that have become like repeated colloquialisms in the Etherian society. One of them is, I'm grateful for the time that I'm given. We are grateful for the time that whenever people pass away, that is something that they say. We are grateful for the time that we are given, because in our society, grief is treated like a disease. It's treated like something that you have and you get over and you're fine. That, and it's like, no, the phases of grief need to be accepted, and we need to be great. Yeah, we're sad they're dead, but we need to be grateful for what we had with them. That should not be shunned. Right. And the other thing is, people choose the ease of hate over the work of love, which is something that my grandfather used to say back in the 1970s, when all of the 1960s, the civil riots and stuff, in the early 70s, and all of the social discourse was going on. He would say that. He would say people choose the ease of hate over the work of love. And that's as true today as it was then. It is true in fantasy worlds. It is true in sci-fi worlds. It is true in the real world.
It's easy to hate, but you got to work at loving people, especially when somebody's saying something at the top of their lungs that you would spend the rest of your life denying at the top, screaming, no, 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 at the top of yours. You have to find that balance of where you can stand up for yourself, but do it in such a way that you're not doing it from a place of hate. And that does, especially in today's world, it's very difficult sometimes, very difficult. All right. Outside of writing, what activity feeds your creative soul?
I garden. I love gardening. I have my beehives. I miss the goats. I used to have like goats. I still have poultry, but I don't have the goats anymore because I don't have the physical strength and ability to manage that workload, especially in the winter. Now that my kids are all grown up and moved away from home, I can't like go knock on the door and say, go feed the goats. Yes. Yeah. But yeah, no, I love writing. That is like my primary things. But I actually, in my Bujo, I don't know where my Bujo is right now. I actually was going to show you that, like how my planner works. And I actually have a page for non-writing creative refill. Ooh. And sometimes it's reading books. Sometimes it's watching anime. Sometimes it's watching movies. Sometimes it's watching documentaries. There are so many ways that you can feed your creative well. Crocheting tutorials, because that's another thing I lost besides language, was all the crochet stitches that I ever knew were just gone. And now I can't, and now it's like single stitch crocheting is like, oh, that's so ugly.
You have to relearn it all over again.
Yeah. But don't feel guilty for taking time away from writing, because as writers, there's this segment of the writer community that preaches you have to write every day or you're not a real writer. And if you don't write so many 1,000 words a month, you're not a real writer. And if you don't do the 500,000 wordy every year, you're not a real. yeah, no,
That's not
no. If you just have the time to write once a week, just that's fine.
true.
You can fill your life with other things.
Hmm. Yep. Yep. I like that. When have you ever faced creative burnout? And if so, how did you overcome it? So, how did you balance that with getting things done versus,
Well, I have chronic migraines,
okay, yeah, I knew that.
and and sometimes they make it very hard for me to be write creatively.
Hmm.
And funny enough, when I had COVID, I could not write creatively.
Yeah,
Like
that must be me
the
too.
first nano I failed
Yeah.
was because the first week of nano I got COVID, and I was like, I can't think to write anything. You know,
The fog with that was it,
the brain fog is real.
it rivaled radiation and chemo fog for me. It
Yeah,
rivaled
it's the equivalent of brain damage from a stroke, migraine, headache, fog.
it. Hmm.
And I switch to editing. I switch into editor mode
Okay.
because I can still do the logic. The logic think is a system because
Uh-huh.
I have a 15-step editing system, so I can literally go this step, this
I've
step,
got to get a
this
copy of
step,
that.
this step. And I literally just think through the different steps of editing,
Yeah.
and that's how that works for me. If I am struggling with a project, I am not afraid to walk away. If I like I'm trying to write the second Gargoyle Shifter book. I've been trying to write it for like 2 years and struggling with it, and it's just not coming. I'm not afraid to walk away from a project and work on something else. Of
Mhm.
course, there are some authors who they'll only have like one project that they're working on, that they have world build. I have like 200. No,
Wow, Mama
no, it's
Maggie.
it's a bad thing. It's a bad thing. I literally okay, so see
That's
this? See this? I
crazy.
roll this dice to pick my nano projects. I roll this dice to pick different projects for different times because my brain is like, oh, here's a thing and shiny thing and and my brain gets so excited that I can't think about anything else, and my muse just takes off like a rocket into the idea meadow, and I'm like, no, come back. No, come back. You need to come back. No, don't go over there. And so I end up writing like a short story, writing a half a dozen scenes, doing a lightweight world build
Yeah.
to scratch that itch, and then I tuck it away. And
Okay.
I tell everyone, I'm like, if you need to, like, if you're stuck on a project, if you're stuck on a scene, skip ahead of that scene and then look back to write on it. If you can't do that,
Okay.
hop out of that world and write some flash fiction. I am a huge advocate of writing a flash fiction, which is how I got so many word seeds,
Hmm.
to get your brain reset so you can go back and look at a world with fresh eyes.
Okay.
Um, if you don't, if you because people will give up writing if
Hmm.
they get stuck. People will give up writing because they're like, I just can't do it. I'm not a real writer. This scene doesn't work. Do you really need that scene? Don't be afraid to say, okay, this scene isn't working. Why
Hmm.
isn't it working? Do I
Hmm.
really need this scene? Can I write a different version of this scene?
Hmm.
Why am I so attached to this scene?
Hmm.
And don't be afraid to step away from your work and write something else for a little while, because
I I
we
like
we
totally agree with that.
we
Yes.
live we live in our little squirrely brains and our little worlds so tightly that literally we can't see the forest for the trees.
Right.
And sometimes you need to go up the mountain, and sometimes you need to walk to the beach, and sometimes you just need to lay in the grass and stare at the stars. So don't be afraid to walk out of your comfort zone. Don't be afraid to find a random prompt from a writing stream or something like that. And don't be afraid to go on to AuthorTube streams and say,
Yeah.
I'm having this problem with this character or this scene
Mhm.
or this thing. because none of us are going to shame you, but none of us are going to
We
go,
have
oh,
the most awesome
you're
AuthorTube community.
not a real writer if you can't fix this.
No, you're not going to get that with us.
Here's my stretch mark butt. You can back that.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, never, if you're stuck, there is a reason that you're stuck. And do not be afraid to seek help. Do not be afraid. Like I advocate, share your work. And don't be afraid to, just because you think a question sounds stupid doesn't mean it's stupid.
Okay. All right. I've got about 3 more questions left for you. This one is, what do you wish people understood about being a creative writer or blogger? Other than what you just said about not having to write every day doesn't make you the writer. What do you think?
How tiring. It's so rewarding, but it's tiring and it's mental work. And they're like, oh, you just sit down and write. It is less tiring to clean my barn or build fence or move my beehives than to edit one of my books. I spend 40 to 60 hours, 50 weeks of the year working on the craft of writing, on my own books, on things like editing, formatting, looking for plot holes, listening to books, listening to craft books, listening to other people's books in a genre. There are so many levels to the author life, especially indie authors, that they don't realize. Like my husband has been watching me go through this journey for years. And he was like, you're always shut away and always doing this. And so he got us desks. It's so sweet of him that he wants to spend time with me. And we have desks that face each other, but he will be working, and he'll be working on something and I'll be working on something, and he'll get up and leave and go watch TV, or he'll go outside, or he'll, when he's not at work, and he'll come back in and I'm still like, and he's like, aren't you done yet? And I'm like, I've only done 3 chapters. What are you talking about? I'm formatting 3 chapters. I have edited 1 chapter. I have written 1 chapter. And it's the work of writing. I wish we could all be like Thoreau and just sit in a cabin in the woods. And have our mom and 2 maids come in and feed us and clean for us and do our laundry.
That would be fantabulous. My husband is a screenwriter, so he understands a little bit better about when I'm in here and I've got the door shut. If the door's shut, unless something's on fire, you're bleeding, you don't open that door. So he gets that. Like my kids and grandkids, of course, do not get it. They just throw it open. Hey, Mom, what you doing? Yeah. But he does get that. So yeah. All right. Are there any?
The other thing? The other thing is that being an author does not pay.
Nearly what people think.
I figured it up, and I made 5 cents an hour last year. And that's selling books in person on Ko-fi and through Amazon. I made 5
time you put everything into it. Yeah. How many hours it took you to do it? Your hourly rate. It's fine.
I made 5 cents an hour last year. And you know what? I was happy to make that 5 cents an hour last year because it was more than the 3 cents an hour I made the year before.
Exactly. You're the best, Mama Maggie. Oh my gosh. Are there any future books or collections you are currently working on that you can give us a tiny hint about?
A Darkness, Relic of Time War is winding down. You will get the last 3 books will come out this year. You're getting 1 per quarter. So Light of Jura came out in the first quarter. Darkness of the Devourer is coming out in the second quarter. The Shadow Hunt will come out in the third quarter. And The Huntsman's Hope will come out in the fourth quarter, and that series is done. That the huge series is done. Pagosa Cliffs, I am working through the last 4 or 5 books of that series. So that, and then next in December, I'm planning on moving the Servants of the Moon series, which is for free on Inkit. You can read the rough drafts on Inkit. Starting this summer, I'm going to be working on rewriting that. And that whole series about the werewolf holy war and all of everything that's going on with that for the 3 books, Servants of the Sun, Servant of the Moon, Daughter of the Tides, and Servant of the Sun. Those will be coming out in 2026.
You have me at werewolf.
What you're gonna love this series, because the tagline for this series is "A promise to the moon cannot be broken, but sometimes she closes her eye."
I like it.
So you have the oracles and the temples of the moon and the servants of the moon, and it starts off with a small, very devout warrior pack in Nova Scotia, and
we all know why Nova Scotia, or I know why Nova Scotia. I know mine.
And because the prophesied king of the wolves is supposed to come from this pack. The king and queen of the wolves are supposed to come from this pack. A lot of other packs envy them, and they get targeted. And across the continent, in a different pack, in the pack of the oracles, the Benjamin Naftal pack, which is a pack of warriors and oracles, a pair of twin oracles is born. And they see, the one sister sees the war coming. They see what will happen if the monarchy wolves and the royal wolves of the land and all the arrogant alphas, if they keep defying the moon, they see the apostate coming, the burning wolf, the wolf who worships the sun. They see what will bring the downfall of the whole world. And there's witches, and there's vampires, and there's even appearances by my gargoyle shifters. And there's gods, deities that they call devas, that you find out, especially if you start going into the gargoyle shifter, the Bibi Kruer, the Stone Skin, the Western Queen books. You start finding out that they're just another species that live on Earth, that were put on Earth by the Edoans and left. And they basically put all these species on Earth. And you find out, if you go into the Gargoyle series, you find out about the Great War of Extinction, which was later renamed the Black Death. And that's when the demons and the Nosferatu and the unicorns try to kill off the entire world. And the vampires and gargoyles and dragons and werewolves and witches, all of the ancient mythological species, they all existed at one point. So they were real. And it was during the War of the Black Death that literally spread from Europe all the way around the Mediterranean Sea into Africa, into the Middle East, that result, and actually far into the Far East, that resulted in most of these species becoming extinct or being on the verge of extinction. And so, yeah, I am really looking forward to putting out Servants of the Moon next year. I will also be cycling back around and starting to put out more of the Devoted Sister series books.
Okay.
I have Cowboy a la carte written. I have the Tiger Lily Inn written. I just Sand Dollar and Stained Glass will be coming, and so I am really looking forward to putting these books out next year once I finish the 2 big series that I have now, because Pagosa Cliffs is there right now. They have someone in their town that is wearing a friend's face, and he is not their friend. He is literally going to try to burn the whole town to the ground.
Ooh.
And he is going to shoot. People are going. The Sheriff Tank Tanner will be lucky to live through this. Deputy Lloyd McConnell will become sheriff, and he will be lucky if he lives through this after Tank. Millie, well, yeah, maybe.
Okay. All right. Finally, can you leave us with a favorite quote or thought that inspires you to keep writing?
The favorite thing that inspires me to keep writing is Anne McCaffrey. Okay. She is like the mother of modern women's sci-fi. She fought to have her books recognized as science fiction and not fantasy. And she says that, everyone deserves to be recognized for their talent and not their So, she was in a world where only men wrote sci-fi. So the fact that she had a half a dozen science fiction series and is still recognized as a science fiction writer is amazing. She really inspires me. And the other thing is there's a quote by William Robert Williamson that is, "I do not fear monsters or demons. I fear what real people do to real people."
Yeah.
And that quote early on in my writer career, I saw that quote and people were saying, "Oh, your stories are too serious. They're too heartbreaking. They have too much trauma." And I was like, this isn't even a tenth of the trauma that happens in the real world. It's like I got a 2-star rating on Red Velvet and Anemones when it first published, because somebody was like, "This is urban, grim, dark. It's so much trauma and stuff." And I'm like,
you've had a good life.
I'm like, this is what? She was so sheltered.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's don't be afraid to write what you want. Write until it is as natural as breathing. Write all the words out of your soul and share them, because someone else needs to hear that they're not alone.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you, Mama Maggie. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. It was so much fun. Oh, and everyone, Beltane.
Oh, there's our number one book.
Here is our number one book. Beltane has reached number one in religious anthologies and short stories. This is also part of, goes with
Bog Hag.
Group of a bunch of us author tubers got together. We wrote short stories. My Bog Hag story and my Beltane story are actually related. Most of them are not. But everything for the Bog Hag anthology and the Beltane anthology go to support Quill Cottage Small Animal Rescue, which is a certified charity. And yes, please support Small Animal Rescue and get some good stories to read on the way.
Yes, please. Yeah, I was really honored to have been asked to do that this year. I was like, really? Me? So that was really, that was a cool experience. That was so super cool. Make sure you send me all of your links and everything so I can re-upload the information in the description for this video. All right, guys. Thank you, Mama Maggie. And I think that they all know what I'm going to say before I say it, but I'm going to say it anyway. I may not be everybody's cup of tea, but I'm a particular group of people's double shot of whiskey. And I'm so happy and I'm so proud that y'all come and hang out with us on days like today, and that you find me and Mama Maggie just right. We love y'all. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you later. Bye-bye. Bye bye. Bye bye.